The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And A.J. Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right. Welcome back to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me as usual, A.J. Applegarth. What's up, man?
Not too much. What's going on?
A lot. I won't get into it, but we got football, man. We got football. We got real live football on TV tonight. It's exciting. Preseason, but it's still exciting to watch some football. Do you look forward to these preseason games at all, or are they just kind of mad at you?
Not really. I mean, obviously the third week is the big week, but I'm glad that it's back on. I sadly have not had a chance to even put anything on to watch yet, but at this point it's probably all the people fighting for the roster spots anyway, so not really all that intrigued at this point.
At 9:20ish at night when we start recording this, it probably is for most of the games, except for maybe if there's some West Coast ones. But I usually record like the NFL Network replays of them and kind of fast forward through them as much as possible, like commercials and downtime, and I'll get through the important parts in about 25 to 30 minutes a game. I get to see what I need to see. Interestingly enough, Richard Seville put an article out. He puts it out every year and just kind of reminds people, what you should be and shouldn't be paying attention to in preseason football. And it's an interesting one to read. Obviously, as you just alluded to, first half is usually where most of the action is. The stuff you really want to see. It's the first offenses. It's guys that are going to mix in with the first offenses, the starting offenses and things like that, and defenses that, are going to be fantasy relevant. And so you kind of want to see these guys that, could be sleepers right now and see how they mix in with the starting offenses and the good offensive lines and things like that, and just see if they're going to be worth a damn, really. You want to see how many snaps a lot of these guys are getting. Obviously you're not worried about like the Saquon Barkleys and stuff like that. If they get the time off in the preseason, that's going to happen, right? They're gonna save these stud guys. But you look at the competitions. You look at the guys that are going to be, fighting for committee time and things like that. And he mentions with receivers and stuff, right? You want to look at how some of these guys are getting separation, in especially if they're going against some of these front end secondaries and things like that. So, you watch offensive linemen, see who's gelling, see who's blocking well, and that's because, whether we like it or not, offensive lines can make a big difference in this game, and we've seen really good players behind bad offensive lines not do anything, so that matters. And so there's more to it. I'm not going to go through the whole article, but just check it out on Fantasy Six Pack. It's a good one to read. We do have at least one injury that I caught through Twitter. Kiki Kuti went down with a knee injury. It looked pretty bad, man. His knee got bent back pretty good in the wrong direction, and it, sadly, it looks like the dreaded ACL done game 1, quarter 1. So that blows. It's got a fishbowl right there for me.
Yeah, I surprisingly don't own any shares of QT yet. I was hoping to at some point, but not anymore. So I'm cool with not owning it right now.
I was pretty high on him coming into the year because Fuller's always hurt. And he played well last year when he was on the field. So I was really hoping for a step forward this year. Although interestingly enough, something that might have hurt his value before the injury, obviously, was the trade of Duke Johnson to the Houston Texans.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's a big one. We had Foreman get cut just a few days ago, right? And how long was it?
Yeah, it was less than a week ago.
Yeah, so Foreman was cut. He's gotten picked up by the Colts, which I don't think really means much. But they have now traded for Duke Johnson, which in my mind propels Chubb up the board quite a few spots. And then, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, Lamar Miller is just going to feast. Maybe not be like awesome, right? Because Lamar Miller is just kind of a blah, as people call him. He's a jag, just a guy, right? I hear Scott Hansen say that all the time, so I'm going to steal that from him. It's pretty good. But now that Duke Johnson's there, I think it puts Lamar Miller right back where he was, if not worse, in my opinion. But I think I had read some stuff about how the route tree that Kuti ran was similar to like what a running back would have run out of the backfield. It was very short routes, little dump offs, things like that. So that would have hurt his value quite a bit. But now that Kuti's out, I don't know if there's any receivers that really gain a lot of value out of this in that offense. I think they were all just pretty good in general, but I wonder if just Duke Johnson's value just goes up even more. What do you think?
Yeah, possibly. Obviously we just got the news of Johnson today, and it has been updated on the fantasy six-pack running back depth chart. It took about a month off or so from doing anything with that because of all the different leagues and analyst drafts and all that. But
and there was
just updated that,
so it's okay.
What's that?
Well, there's nothing going on, so it's
true.
Okay.
But there's been a few news and notes updates and stuff. Couple guys moved up the boards, added some of the rookies back into the depth chart as well. I think this is really big for Duke Johnson. Like you said, I think he's going to take some time away from Miller as it is anyways, way more than Foreman would have. He definitely takes over the third down / passing down back plays, right from Miller, even though Miller was supposedly working on his passing game and this and that in the offseason. He put on some more weight and muscle, but that's all got to translate to the field too. But with Kuti going down, it just opens the field up more for Johnson, and they could split him out wide, maybe kind of put him in like a Brian Westbrook type situation where they just end up using him all over the field. So I like this. I don't like this injury, but I like the upside from it for Johnson.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. I'll be waiting to see Duke Johnson get on the field for them to see how it works. I'm sure he's not on the field tonight. So in other news, we've got an update on the Antonio Brown injury. We mentioned it briefly last week. It came out that, he had pretty messed up feet, didn't quite know what it was. Turns out it is frostbite from not having the right foot gear on when he was in his cryo, I don't know what the hell it's called.
Yeah, it's like a cryotherapy chamber or something.
Machine or something like that. And
yeah.
There's all sorts, nobody really knows. There's no timeline, right? And all you hear is that, the skin's going to heal, so he'll be fine, right? Well, and I don't know if you've ever seen these, Twitter doctor guys, right? And they call out to, there's one in particular that I see a lot post on Twitter. This guy, Dr. Celine, I don't know, Perrick, or whatever his name is. He loves fantasy, right? So he posts a lot of injury updates and tries to take as much of the news as he gets and tries to place it, put his expertise on it, I guess. And so, he even said, yes, the skin will heal without an issue. The bigger issue is that sometimes there's nerve damage, so you have to hope that's not the case. And then I was looking up some stuff today before the podcast, and I noticed that Justin Gatling. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a United States sprinter back in the day. Maybe, Is he still? I don't know. I can't forget. Lose track of all my.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've really followed that. He said he had the same injury, and he was out for months. So that's not a good sign, man. Like, I don't know. I'm probably fading Antonio Brown in all my leagues. I don't think I'm going after him. I didn't really like him to begin with. I don't think I was going to get him in any of my leagues. I had him ranked a little lower than where I was comfortable taking him, or where, I had him ranked lower where most people were comfortable taking him. So I wasn't going to get him in a lot of leagues. And I think now I'm just even more off of him at this point. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a hit to his value, whatever that was. I mean, to me, same deal. I was fading him regardless of this injury. I mean, I would like for him to succeed, but mostly just because I've owned him for the past, umpteen years on multiple teams. But this will be a year I don't plan on owning him. So there's that. I don't know.
It'll be interesting. I mean, it'll be something to monitor for sure.
Well, yeah, it's just like stupidity like this. Like, there's no reason to have this injury.
No,
like,
not at all.
You have this ridiculous machine that you sleep in or do whatever in. I don't know. Listen to our podcast probably.
Absolutely.
But, Fantasy Six Pack's got a big following out in the Oakland area, I think. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. It's like, the hell's the point of this machine in the first place? Like, what's it really doing for you? I don't know. Injuring you, hurting your career even further at this point?
Sure, it's something that people that like us that don't make as much money as Antonio Brown will never understand. So it's okay.
Well, yeah, it's like a glorified sauna, except the opposite temperature range.
I mean, I get it. Like, as somebody who was an athlete, ice therapy is a thing. This is like the extreme of that. So I sort of get, but I've never looked into really what it means, but it's okay.
Like, I don't know. Sit in an ice bath. You won't get frostbite.
I know, right? Just happen to
or wear your proper gear.
Yeah, that's probably the most important. Anyway, man. So let's get on with it. My favorite segment of the week.
Beer.
So our beer of the week. I'll go this time. So I'm doing a Union. What is this? Union Mill. Union Craft Brewing.
Yeah.
I knew what it was. Yeah. So it's a Trip Leader, and it is a double IPA. It's actually really kind of malty and hoppy at the same time. It is pretty heavy, but it's also just very tasty. I gave this a 4.5 on Untapped. It's
wow.
Yeah, dude, it's phenomenal.
Dude,
this is one of the best I've had. This is awesome. I need to go find more of these. 8%, so it's definitely a good one, and it is another one of the 16 ounces I brought back from Delaware when I was up there at the beach last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. So good stuff, man. I definitely recommend it.
Excellent. I will have to see if my local joint, Christo's, has that. I'm sure they probably do. They have such a great selection over there as it is. Speaking of the beer that I'm drinking, I'm going to your well here and drinking a Stone.
All right.
The Revengeful Spirit Imperial IPA. It is a IPA with pineapple and mandarin orange. 8.1%. I don't really get the pineapple or the orange, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
But this one seems a little malty as well. Hops don't like smack you in the face, at least not for me. But it is quite a tasty beverage.
All right, good stuff, man. I definitely enjoy that beer, so I can highly recommend all the Stone stuff. Everything I've had from them is phenomenal. So, all right, well, let's get going. We've got our fourth and final position preview for the 2019 fantasy football season, and that is tight ends. Joining us tonight, longtime writer for Fantasy Six Pack, Kevin Huo, joins us. He also does. He also co-hosts the Fantasy Edge podcast. I believe they're doing that on Tuesday nights this year. So, Kevin, you with us?
Yep. What's going on, guys?
Not much, man. How's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
So yeah, we've covered the quarterbacks, the running backs, the receivers, and now we're on to some tight ends, man. So closing it out here before we get on some other topics. You know, not always the most exciting of topics, but you know, it's something that needs to be discussed. It is still a position, as much as AJ would love to just get rid of it. It feels like,
maybe.
Yeah, you've said that a couple times, but that's all right. We're not quite there yet. Anyway, man. So how we like to do this is we like to do. Get your general strategy for the position. So, look, we know things change as the draft goes on, but if you had the perfect draft scenario happen, like how would you be attacking this position?
So I'm going into this with basically two strategies, and one is I'm either going to try and get Travis Kelce at like middle second round, or I'm just going to wait super long because there's a lot of tight ends that I really like in like the tight end 10 to tight end almost 18 range that I think are really good values. And I think based on the volatility of the position, I think can pay off for you.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with you at all there. I'm sort of up there with like if you can get an Ertz or a Kittle maybe a round later, I'll dig into that. But after that, it's sort of wait and see. Does anything change for you if it's a PPR or a standard league, or is it just kind of the same strategy?
Draft wise, it's the same, but as far as the people I'm targeting, it's going to be different. So for standard leagues, you really just want to go for guys who are going to score touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So guys who are in better offenses, like Eric Ebron gets a huge bump for me in standard. But in half point or full PPR leagues, like I'm looking for guys who are getting a lot of targets. I mean, theoretically, like ideally you would get a guy who has both of those, but you know, like you said, it's the tight end position. And it's a little bit ugly sometimes. So if it's PPR, like you just want to see a guy who's going to get a lot of work.
Yeah, most definitely. AJ, anything different for you?
No, I mean, so far this year in the leagues that we've drafted in the Annis leagues, Scott Fish Bowl and Raz Bowl, I have both of these guys. Actually, I have Kittle and then Kelce. So Ertz is the only one that I don't have so far. So maybe I'll have to change that in some of my personal leagues. But yeah, I mean, aside from those three guys, you really can sit and wait in my mind, at least till, you know, the middle single digit rounds. And then just kind of go after some of these volume guys like an O.J. Howard, or an Ebron who was mentioned there. So I like those guys, but definitely a little bit later. So, but speaking of a guy that you can get a little bit later here, Hunter Henry is a tight end that we did not see last year because of his injury. What do you expect from, you know, a hopefully healthy Hunter Henry this year, Kev?
I'm expecting a lot of good things. Like hopefully he's going to bounce back to where he was, you know, his rookie and sophomore year. He's in a good offense, which you love. And, you know, his rookie year, he was 9th in red zone targets, and he was sharing that with Antonio Gates. Sophomore year, 14th in red zone targets. I'm hoping we're going to get a lot of that. And if Melvin Gordon actually does hold out, you know, however long, you're going to look at more red zone opportunities for Henry. On top of that, he's a pretty dangerous, open field guy. So it's not like he's only getting you touchdowns. So I like him a lot in that offense.
So no concerns about coming off the injury or anything? Does it bump him down a little bit for you?
It does make me a little nervous, but I think he suffered that injury early in training camp, I think, last year. So he's had a lot of time to recover from it. And I think with, today's ACL recovery techniques, whatever you would call them, I think he'll be okay.
All right. Joe, any thoughts on Hunter?
Yeah, I'm with Kevin on this one. We're looking at his ADP here on the slides, and it's really just kind of stayed the same. Like, the chart looks like it's moved a lot, but you've really got to read the y-axis here and see that it's only, basically beginning second round to the middle of second round, not even middle of second round. So it's pretty much unchanged. You're going to have to go get him in the sixth round, which I don't totally mind, right? You look at some of the guys there in that sixth round that go around him, and it's not, it's nothing too exciting. So if you've built a really strong team up front and you're happy with what you've got, then I have no issues going after these tight ends that are going in the middle. That being said, there'll probably be a little rust. He might start off a little slow, but again, as Kevin alluded to, he's a talented guy. He can make plays in the open field, and they got rid of they got rid of Tyrell Williams. Of course, if Gordon does hold out, that just opens up more. So there's plenty of opportunity for him to be a very impactful tight end most weeks than not. So the next guy here that we've got, Kevin, is actually two. So you mentioned him earlier, but I want to get your thoughts on Eric Ebron versus Jack Doyle, who, again, is another guy coming back from injury, had a very injury-plagued season last year. Ebron, of course, had the monster season, very padded by touchdowns. But who do you take out of these two, given their current ADP, is what I want to know first.
Yeah, so given their current ADP, Ebron is being drafted right at the top of the 7th round. Doyle is being drafted at the bottom of the 13th. So you can pretty much get Doyle for free in any league that you want to target him in,
right?
Which is why, like you said, given their ADPs, I would rather have Doyle. Ebron, like you said, put up a monster year, boosted by touchdowns. And when I was doing the tight end preview, like, that's something that I really looked into is, the regression of touchdowns. So since 2009, there's been 22 instances where a tight end caught 10 or more touchdowns. Ebron, obviously, of course, is one of those. So going into the next year, the touchdown rate for those 22 guys decreased by more than 5%. So in Ebron's terms, that would mean he would catch 6 less touchdowns this year. And that's not even factoring things like Jack Doyle coming back from injury. They signed Devin Funchess, who does kind of similar big body things, and then Paris Campbell, who's going to take a lot of short work away. So I think there's just a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and I'm not really willing to invest a 7th round pick in Ebron.
So if you had to pick one who would actually outperform the other, who would you pick?
In that case, I'd still probably go with Ebron. Okay. I think that's like the thing that kind of gets on a lot of people is like, just because I'd say, I'm not that high on Ebron doesn't mean that I'm really, really low on him. Like, it's just, I just like to temper expectations. I think Ebron will still probably be fine. Like, he showed obviously that he works well with Andrew Luck. And on top of that, like, Doyle has not been able to stay healthy throughout his whole career. So if I have to just say who's going to produce more, it'll probably still be Ebron.
Yeah, that was the point of the question, was to kind of point that fact out. So I'm glad you said that. AJ, what are your thoughts here on these two guys?
Obviously Ebron stepped up huge last year, with Doyle being out, and really got a great rapport going with a finally healthy Andrew Luck. So I do like the upside potential, but I agree his ADP is a little high for my liking right now, especially when I feel like, me personally, I think Doyle is still Luck's main go-to between the two. So I at their current ADP, I would probably sit and wait and take Doyle myself. But he'd probably be a second tight end on my team. So at that point, I'm not drafting him as a tight end one. I'd have somebody else in case I have to deal with his injury. So that's pretty much my thoughts on them. But speaking of a guy that I already mentioned that I do not own stock in yet, Mr. Zach Ertz. There's been some buzz. I'm not really sure from who other than my co-host here, but that Mr. Ertz could be on the decline. Is this due to Dallas Goedert? His potential and his upside. What are your thoughts on the Eagles tight ends there, Kevin? Speak wisely.
Careful.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I had a bunch prepared, but maybe you should just skip me because this is not going to be a positive. Well, I don't think Zach Ertz is declining. Like I don't think there's any argument about that. Like he's not going to be worse as a player. I just think that his fantasy prospects maybe not. I mean, he's kind of being drafted based on what he produced last season. But last season he put up a tight end record 156 targets, which was a 26% target share, compared to his 3 previous seasons where he averaged about 112 targets, which was an 18% target share. I think he's going to go back to kind of that. And I mean, we're talking about Deshaun Jackson getting added, Dallas Goedert being added, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, I think is his name.
Yep.
So there's just going to be a lot of mouths to feed on top of, 2 running backs.
5 running backs.
5 running backs.
The Eagles
will probably add some more.
Yeah.
I don't even think. Yeah, I didn't even mention Alshon
Smallwood.
Jeffrey.
You got Clement. You got Sproles. I mean, Miles Sanders. You got Howard. Josh Adams is potentially still. Yeah, there's way too many running backs as it is. But no, yeah, I agree. I think I don't think he personally is declining, but I really like Goedert, and I love that they went out and got him. I think I've already been on record on this show saying that I loved the David Akers draft call for Dallas Goedert in Dallas, naming a guy after their city, 1 pick ahead of them when Jason Witten just retired and they needed a tight end. I mean, it was glorious. As an Eagles fan, you just love turning that screw even further into Dallas. A little off topic, but I mean, he's already 3 for 50 tonight. He's got 5 targets, long of 24. So, I mean, that just shows. Granted, it's preseason, but he's got the talent. So I think that it's nice for them to have another great weapon in the passing game, but there's so many weapons there that I think I could see Ertz taking a step back this year, production-wise, and Goedert taking a step forward. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, and what I meant by decline was not like talent decline. It was just he's going to be on the decline production-wise. And so but you have heard things where it was a we did this 2 months ago. I had at that time read tweets recently where you see like, oh, could Dallas Goedert be better than Ertz this year? And I sort of laughed at it, but you asked the question because it's something people are talking about. But I mean, I'm right there with you guys. I think Goddard's good, but Ertz is the guy. Ertz won't put up what he did last year because it's pretty ridiculous, the number of targets, as Kevin mentioned. But Goddard's going to definitely get more involved, which isn't going to help Ertz either. Moving on here to another NFC East guy. Now that Odell Beckham's gone from the Giants, what do we think about I guess you can call it a bounce back for Evan Ingram. I mean, last year was pretty down for him. Just that offense in general was bad. So after Saquon, what are we feeling about Ingram this season?
I like Ingram. I like Ingram. He's in a good situation. I think if he can stay healthy, I mean, it looks like he's going to be able to command a pretty good target share. In games without Odell Beckham, he averaged 8.9 fantasy points a game. And games, did I say with or without? With Odell, 8.9. Without Odell, he was 13.3. So
right.
Pretty significant bump. I think, he's going to be the focus point of that passing offense. I mean, besides Saquon. Other than that, kind of got to gamble on his upside, on his ability to stay healthy. But I think he could pay off.
Yeah, I think Ingram's an interesting case here because you have somebody who has shown success without Odell there. Odell is now currently, not currently, officially gone. So that's definitely a step in the right direction for his upside. I think the knock back is going to be the quarterback situation. Clearly with Daniel Jones there, I would assume he's going to take over at some point, mid-season, once the Giants are 0-6 to 0-8, somewhere in there. So they're going to start giving him the chance, and they're going to, give Eli the hook. So that'll be.
Are we predicting 2 NFC East teams to go like 0-16 now? Because I know you've already dogged the Redskins a couple times. I know they suck, but really,
probably.
I don't think there's two NFC East teams that are going to be.
I mean, I feel like there is only 2 NFC East teams this year to worry about. So yeah. I mean, they might. All right. Let me rephrase. So after the Giants beat the Redskins as their lone win, they're going to have a horrendous letdown game after that, and then they will just move on from Eli. But yeah, I like Ingram's upside. I don't know if I'm really high on him this year, just because there's not a lot of mouths to feed on that offense. So I think the offense in general is going to kind of suck outside of Saquon.
Yeah, I think the offense is going to suck. I think Ingram will be pretty good, though. I think, when Tate comes back from his suspension and Shepard is healthy, I don't think teams are going to be able to double him, and Saquon will take a lot of the attention away. I think Ingram's going to be a relatively safe tight end, honestly. But that's that. That's pretty much all I got. You guys said most of it.
All right. So moving on then, the last name we've got here for our burning questions is O.J. Howard, who I already kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. What do we think of Howard this season, Kevin, now that Bruce Arians has taken over the Tampa offense?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, Arians taking over is going to add a huge boost to everyone. But I think people are kind of looking at it like, oh, Bruce Arians never really – the tight end of Bruce Arians' offense has never really done anything. But I don't really think he's ever had a tight end who's as talented as O.J. Howard. He's 5th in fantasy points per game despite splitting half the time with Cameron Brate. Mm-hmm. And I think he left a couple games early due to injury or something like that. So, I think he's, a candidate to become an addition to one of those big 3 tight ends. He's my tight end 4 pretty clearly over guys like Ingram and Hunter Henry. I think he's kind of in a mid tier between those 2 groups. So he's got a lot of upside, and tight end. He's kind of like Henry, but kind of juiced up. Can score a bunch of tight ends and can also do a lot of open field stuff. So I'm pretty excited for O.J. Howard. I think I own him already somewhere, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I like O.J. Howard a lot this season. I took him in Scott Fishbowl I also took him in Rasbowl. So I'm all in on O.J. Howard. If one of you guys steal him in Fantasy Six-Pack League, I might cut you from the league. No, just kidding.
First overall pick.
I just wrote that down.
Done.
I just wrote that down.
Okay, when am I drafting again? Ahead of Joe? Excellent.
So anyway, I'm looking at Pro Football Focus right now, and he was, now of course this includes a lot of blocking and things like that into the score, but he actually rated as the number 2 tight end last season. If you just talk about receiving skills, he's number 3 behind Kittle and Kelsey. So he's obviously top notch. I agree with you, Kevin, where I've got him 4, just ahead of just ahead of Ingram and Henry. And I also kind of agree that there's like a little bit of a gap between him and, like, I think Kelsey's kind of by himself. Then you get Kittle, Ertz, and then there's a little bit of a gap, and it's Howard, and then it's a little bit of a gap again, and it's, Henry, Ingram, kind of, you could exchange the two. I don't really care which one is next. Like, I would put them 5A and 5B. It doesn't matter to me. And then after that, it's kind of meh. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in any of them, and I'll just take whoever's left at that point. But yeah, I think Howard's going to take a huge step forward. The offense should be much improved, and Howard's going to benefit from it greatly. You just got to stay healthy with him at this point. So the next thing we like to do is a little segment called Bros in Different Area Codes, and we talk about, with the other, like the other positions, we talk about the players who move teams. Now, with tight end, we don't have a lot of sexy names. The most sexy name is Jared Cook. And, I mean, I don't know how excited about Jared Cook we are. It is New Orleans, so everybody gets excited. Drew Brees, tight end, right? I mean, everybody's got to love it. Jesse James went to Detroit. Tyler Kroft is in Buffalo. And then, kind of interesting, although suspended as well, Ben Watson in New England. So, I want to get your take on Cook and Watson, though. So go ahead and break those two down for me.
Sure. So Cook is an interesting guy. I featured him in the tight end bust column I wrote because after looking into his 2018 season, I kind of I don't want to say I chalked it up to a fluke, but it has a lot of fluky things if you really consider it. He's just never really been that good. It's kind of strange that he would have that kind of a season when he turned 30. He had he caught 68 of 101 targets for nearly 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. In this season, he averaged in 5 of his games he had 580 of those yards, which is 65%. And over the other 11 games, he averaged 29 yards a game. So huge boomer bust guy. I absolutely hate that, especially in redraft leagues. In best ball, like, I'll probably not really consider Cook that much of a bust, but in redraft, he's kind of a guy I'm staying away from. He had a 19% target share, which was 5th among tight ends, and I just don't really see that continuing in New Orleans. So Cook is kind of a guy I'm not really too excited about. He's going to have some really big games, but I think he's going to have a lot of stinkers too. I don't really know how you guys feel about Cook. I feel like I'm slandering him, and it's going to come back to bite me.
No, dude, I'm kind of with you, honestly. I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah. If you want to go even deeper into it, I mean, his age 31 season was his first season finishing as a top 12 tight end scorer, and no tight end who's first time in the top 12 as a 30-year-old has ever repeated it. So, I don't know. He's like, yeah, I get it. He's an athlete, but he's still, gotta get older, I guess.
Yeah. So
that I know anything about that.
Okay. What's your take on Ben Watson there in New England?
Yeah, Watson's another interesting guy because He's actually one of the other players other than Gary Barnidge, the legendary Gary Barnidge, who entered the top 12 as a tight end when he was 35 years old. Kind of weird, though, because the next year he just retired. And then the year after, he was actually pretty productive for the Ravens. Had 61 catches for 522 yards, 4 touchdowns. Then he went back to the Saints, was kind of meh, whatever. But now he's going back to the Patriots. I think is he suspended 2 or 4 games? I don't remember.
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say it's 4.
Yeah, I want to say it's 4 because it's PEDs, right?
Yeah.
He was like really honest about it too, which was pretty cool. But I don't know. He's going to be 39 this year, so that's real perilous. And then, I just don't really know. I guess he's worth the flyer because the Pats tight ends do have some kind of inherent value, but I don't know. I tend to think like James White, Julian Edelman are just going to catch more balls.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. Do you have really anything to add about the other two? I feel like they're fairly uninteresting, but I want to give you the chance if you want to talk about Jesse James or Tyler Croft.
Nah, not really. Jesse James, I mean, he's the second tight end there, so that's already decreased value. Like, he's probably just going to be blocking. Tyler Croft, yeah, I don't know what you want me to say. He's cool.
You don't have to say anything.
Okay, he'll catch.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah, 450 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like, cool.
Maybe. Yeah. All right, moving on. AJ, what you got, man?
Yeah. So, I mean, you want me to just jump into the rookies here?
Yeah, just move on at this point. These guys are more interesting anyway.
Exactly. So, yeah, we'll definitely talk about the first 3 here. But there's a couple other guys that are a little more dynasty relevant. So we got T.J. Hawkinson in Detroit. We got Noah Fant out in Denver. We got Irv Smith in Minnesota as the main, big names that we're seeing here. And then you also got Jace Sternberger for Green Bay and Dawson Knox in Buffalo as the more dynasty relevant. So what are your thoughts on the top 3 guys there, the 2 Iowa guys and Irv?
I mean, I think it's hard with rookie tight ends because they so rarely make an impact on fantasy unless they're catching a bunch of touchdowns. And I don't really see any of these offenses as, prolific offenses that are going to score a bunch of touchdowns. There's been reports that Hawkinson's been on the field for like every snap, but I think that's just because he's so good as a blocker. Meanwhile, Noah Fant is kind of more of a raw route running type tight end. And, people love to say Joe Flacco loves tight ends, but that doesn't really mean he makes them fantasy relevant. Like the last guy he had that was like good was Ben Watson 2 years ago. And then before that was like Dennis Pitta in like 2011. So I don't really know how much you want to bank on that. Irv Smith is a guy who's interesting, or who was interesting for a while, because it looked for a while like the Vikings were going to trade Kyle Rudolph, but then they actually ended up extending him. So I don't really know what happened there. But yeah, none of these 3 guys, I would bet that none of these 3 guys really make a fantasy impact this first year.
Yeah, okay. I don't disagree with you at all. I don't target rookie tight ends. You do find one occasionally who can make a difference. You'll find them during the year. I feel like they're but people are drafting these guys like they're going to be awesome, and yeah, they were awesome in college. But let's not forget how awesome Mike Gesicki was in college and how he scored in his spark and all that kind of stuff. And he was supposed to be the next great tight end, and dude, he's awful. Like, I don't know what he's like, and he's still awful this year. Like, you would think second year he would bounce back, but it's not working. Apparently, he's getting pushed around the field. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really understand the Hawkinson hype either, because it's not like Stafford likes to throw to his tight end either. I mean, just look at the difference between Ebron going from Matt Stafford in Detroit to going to Andrew Luck and the Colts. Night and day, right? Ebron was inconsistent in Detroit, and had a lot to do with Stafford loves to throw to his receivers more than his tight ends. So there's that. And then, yeah, you brought up the point. I think I said that like 3 weeks ago or something like that. Everybody was talking about Fant, and I was like, somebody said, oh, but Flacco loves to throw to his tight ends. And I was like, does he? I don't really know if he does. Like, he had 2 really good years with tight ends, and everybody thinks he loves his tight ends. But his other ones that they've drafted have been total garbage. So, and he's tried to get them involved. They're just not getting involved. I don't know. I don't see it. And then, yeah, Irv Smith, he was interesting for about a week. But what do you think about some of these guys like Dynasty? Like, forget the first 2. Obviously, they are clearly Dynasty targets. But what do you think about like those last 3? Irv Smith, Sternberger, and I'm blanking on the name here, Knox for Buffalo. Like, are they kind of like second, third round Dynasty League targets for you for rookie drafts?
Yeah, so Sternberger is not surprisingly the one who's probably gets me the most interested. Probably one, just because he's on the Packers. And even though kind of the knock is that Aaron Rodgers doesn't really like throwing to his tight ends, they can still be pretty productive. Yeah, because he doesn't. He actually doesn't. But,
I was like, yeah. I love how every year. Who is it? Not to call out Richard, but I'm going to call out Richard. Every year, the Packers sign a new tight end. Richard's like, oh, but Aaron Rodgers. And I'm like, it doesn't happen. It never happens.
Yeah, he was
about
all
this
over
last
Jimmy.
year, I'm pretty sure.
He was all over Jimmy Graham last year.
I was like, Jimmy Graham's
and I was
suck.
just sitting there like,
yeah,
he was like, Jimmy Graham's all pro, Aaron Rodgers all pro. Therefore,
we'll be
amazing together.
Each other. Slack. Yeah. I remember, like, they were just laughing.
I remember I was sitting in the middle of that conversation. Like, I was just like the nervous child when his parents are fighting. And I was just like, well, Joe has a point. And, Richard, it could be okay. Like, it could be okay. I was just sitting there, super nervous.
Eating the popcorn.
You just kept like poking the fire, man. You just kept like mentioning one more thing to get the other side. Like keep going. It was fun.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, that's a great point, Richard. What do you have, Joe?
Yeah,
let's go.
Ooh, burn.
Like,
now what?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham is 32. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, he was a guy who produced in college, athletic guy. I think if anyone can succeed, I tend to like. I would like to have a guy who's in a good position. Knox is with Josh Allen in Buffalo, so meh.
Yeah, not exciting.
And then Irv Smith. Yeah, Irv Smith is behind Kyle Rudolph until that changes, and even then, it's no offense to Kirk Cousins, but it's Kirk Cousins.
I would say. Yeah, Cousins does like his tight end.
Right, I was going to say.
So, I mean...
Except last year, he didn't throw to Rudolph at all.
Rudolph
which is strange.
Really let me down last year. Yeah. I didn't get that at all.
Because, I mean, Cousins has obviously not made Reed good, but continued to keep Reed good while Reed was on the field. And then even when Reed was off the field, Davis, Niles Paul was good, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing. Cousins does like to throw to his tight end. So, like, if there's anybody who should get boosted, it is Irv Smith. It's just he's second string at this point. So, until the Vikings finally realize. It could be. I know what you're going to say.
I mean, I wonder if it's a function of, the Vikings receivers are just like
they're so
miles ahead of what the Redskins
are. Yeah. And so that matters big time.
Yeah, he was probably like, holy crap, look at these toys. I'm just going to throw to them all day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, back in the day, though, man, he had D-Jax. He had, he had Crowder. He had receivers when he was in Washington, and he was still producing with those tight ends. So it's not like today and even last year when the Redskins basically have nobody. And, he had good receivers. Yes, Thielen and Diggs are way better than anything the Redskins had, but it's not like he had, garbage to throw to in Washington the years he was there. But,
yeah, I mean, to me, I think Irv Smith's got the most upside from a dynasty standpoint, depending on how long Cousins, sticks around. But
another 3 years.
Or I'm sorry, not Cousins, Rudolph. Sorry.
Yeah, what was the extension for Rudolph? I missed that, actually. You told me that today, Kevin, and I was like, what? Oh, okay, cool. I don't know. If you don't know,
I think he got like
to call you out.
I want to say he got like a 4-year extension.
Wow, that's shocking.
Like something. It was like crazy. Like it was like you're going to trade him.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So on Tuesday, whatever, they extended Rudolph for 4 years, $36 million.
Oh wow. Okay, that's news to me. I didn't know that either. So
I totally missed that.
That was in June. Yeah.
All right, I'm putting my money on Fant. Let's go. All right.
Flacco, do it. All right, man. All right, so we're about wrapping it up here. So what we like to do to close it out is each going to give one reach and one steal in the drafts currently. So a reach is somebody who you think is being reached on in drafts currently, and a steal is somebody who you think is going too late right now, and it's a steal. So, Kevin, lead it off here with your reach this season so far.
So my reach is actually going to be Zach Ertz. He's being drafted 33rd overall right now, based on, Fantasy Football Calculator, and that's. I just don't see him, like, even if he has like a great season, I don't think he's going to return 33rd overall value. So I would consider him a reach. Obviously, I'd love to have him on my team, but I'm not paying a 3rd round price for him.
Son of a bitch.
Don't totally disagree with that, but I do like Ertz. He's going to be good. AJ, what you got?
All right. I myself am going with Mr. Jared Cook. I purposely cut my video out while you guys were talking about him so I wouldn't be able to chime in. Not at all correct on that, but I don't know what happened. So, yeah, I mean, Cook's had one good year last year, and it was his 2nd year in Oakland. Yes, I get Drew Brees had Jimmy Graham and made him into a star, and look at him now. So, yeah, I'm okay. I think he'll have a decent season, but I just like a lot of these guys after him way more than him, and can wait multiple rounds. I mean, I just think that I'd rather sit if I don't get one of the top 3 guys, or even 4 guys with Howard in there. I'm just gonna sit and wait and let it fall down to me and take one of these later guys. Who you got?
So, can I do something totally different here and pick everybody from tight end 7 through tight end 12? I mean, in all reality, I'm not drafting any of those guys. It's Ebron, McDonald, Cook, Njoku, Burton, and Delaney Walker. No. But if I had to pick one, it's going to be Eric Ebron. Kevin, you said literally everything I had written down to talk about him. Like the fact that like tight end touchdown regression is just going to happen for him. Doyle, if he plays, and right now that's what the expectation is, right? It's going to cut into his production. Everything screams like he's going to finish tight end 12 and or tight end even worse than that, and he's being drafted tight end 7, if not higher in some leagues. I know people that love Eric Ebron because they just think like, oh, he's the red zone guy or whatever. It's not going to be that way. It's not going to happen. Luck likes Jack Doyle. He trusts Jack Doyle. There's a ton of other weapons there now. It's just things look bad for Ebron to even get close to repeating last season. So I'm off of him big time.
Yeah. I mean, to add on to the Doyle thing, when they were on the field together, I think it was like 3 games. Doyle actually out-targeted him 33 to 22.
Yeah.
Like, small sample size, but, it's a thing.
It's absolutely a thing. So, all right, what you got for your steal? Who's going a little too late for you?
So I would love to say Mark Andrews, but he's actually starting to get like a little up there. He's been bumped up to like tight end 15. So I'm going to go with Jordan Reed, who's currently tight end 17. The past 4 years, he's led all tight ends in points per snap and points per route run. Granted, I mean, the only one knock on Jordan Reed is that he just can't stay healthy. But by all accounts, he's going into camp healthy this year. Should be the number one offense in that passing attack, if you want to call it an attack. Didn't look good today, but he should be. There's been reports out of training camp that he's having the best camp of his career. He's not even that old. I want to say he's 28. So I think there's potential for a big bounce back season from him. Talented dude. He just can't stay healthy. But, if he can put together a healthy season, it could be a pretty big one.
Oh, man. I thought he was a sleeper last year because he fell and fell and fell, and it just never happened. I don't know if I can buy back into it again, but
that sigh was really, really stressed out.
Just through the Redskins. Like I'm watching Slack right now, right? And I don't know if you're following it, but Richard's talking about Haskins not looking near as good as Daniel Jones. I was like, oh God.
Oh yeah.
and I basically just wrote back. I said Haskins sucks. Like I'm not sure what to tell you guys, but I told you so. And Richard responds back with he's not confident. He's erratic, deer in the headlights. He just needs to relax, settle down. He's like, it would help if the pocket wasn't collapsing around him. And I said, this is everything I said was wrong with Haskins. I don't know why this is news to anybody. I said, pressure is his problem. He doesn't respond well to it. And the Redskins offensive line is a mess. Especially, it's worse now, obviously, since Trent Williams doesn't want to play. So, like, it's going to be awful. And it's going to ruin his career. Like, we've seen this happen time and time again with quarterbacks. Where if you get rattled your rookie year too much, your career is done. You don't respond well to it. So whatever.
All right. Read what Richard. You gotta read what Richard said about Daniel Jones too.
Oh yeah, he was saying how like Daniel Jones is like already unseated Eli, and I was like, okay, let's just relax. But still,
no. I'll read you the quote. He says Daniel Jones has poise and is just smooth. That's 6 O's and smooth.
6 O's, huh?
6 O's.
Yeah.
We talked about.
We're lucky Keith is muted. Keith is like
Keith can always chime in,
jumping up and down right now.
But Keith, they all know how I feel about Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is maybe better, might be the better quarterback.
I think Keith just farted on air.
I moved the mic. I do have a huge smile on my face listening to this conversation right now. It's great.
My problem with Daniel Jones is that he also can get rattled under pressure. Perfect game tape to watch is Virginia Tech versus Duke last year. Virginia Tech didn't have a good defense. It was like one of their worst ever in history. And Daniel Jones was just blitzed every single down, and he overthrew every single ball.
Yeah, but we were his offensive line, though. And I'm not a Daniel Jones supporter. You know that. I hated the pick. I wanted Haskins. So this is funny to me right now that I have to be happy about this.
It's also funny because on the Giants' main page on ESPN.com, it says NFL rookie quarterback debuts, how Jones, Haskins fared. And I will have to recant my statement from earlier as well. It looks like the Giants will be facing the Redskins in week 4, so they will be 1-3 after week 4, and Jones will take the helm after their treacherous loss to the Vikings in week 5. Just in time to face the Patriots on, I think might be a Thursday night. Or maybe the Vikings game might be a Thursday night.
All I know is, and Keith, you said you wanted Haskins. Y'all could have had Haskins. I didn't want either one of these quarterbacks. I didn't want a single one of them.
I miss Kirk Cousins.
No, I don't care. I didn't. Screw it. Just go into the season with Case Keenum. You traded for the guy. Just use him.
See, that's fair. That's fair for you because you have Alex Smith waiting to come back eventually. The Giants have nothing behind
back.
Eli Manning.
Smith is not coming back.
Dude. Alex Smith got Joe Theismann. He's not coming back.
He's not coming back, and he's had like infections in his leg. That dude didn't.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, dude,
literally
on
every single
recovery.
account of history that happened with Joe Theismann, we've already run through on this show. It was the same exact damn injury. What, 30 years later? I don't remember what the time
that game and that injury was freaky. But it was just like I wanted nothing to do with these quarterbacks. And honestly, Keith, like you should have not wanted nothing to do with either of these quarterbacks either. Like just suck this year with Eli again. Go get one of the quarterbacks next year who are going to be twice as good. I mean, that's what I feel like. Why waste a pick on these guys? Go get somebody better. Go get an offensive lineman.
Yeah, they shouldn't have. Jones at 6 was horrendous, especially with
was awful.
What was the defender on the board still that the Jaguars took? Josh Allen. With Josh Allen still on the board.
There's so many good players, so many good defensive players in this draft. Like, just go load up elsewhere. Don't overpick a quarterback. Too many teams do it, and the Redskins and the Giants both did it this year, and they're going to pay for it. So, it is what it is. We got another 10 years of sucking. Don't worry about it, Keith.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. I'm not sure what you're worried about. I'm looking at the depth chart right now. It says you have Colt McCoy on.
Yeah,
on
dude, he's the best backup ever.
No, it says he's first team.
Oh God,
he's going. Let's go.
Why? Wait, what? Where are you looking?
What depth chart are you on?
www.redskins.com/team/depth.
Ooh, they can't even update their own website.
Depth.
I need to go apply for a new job because
Colt McCoy, Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins, Josh Woodrum.
Josh Woodrum.
Yeah, this is the official.
What happened to
probably
Josh?
The
official depth was solid last year for a couple
new
weeks.
Quarterback.
I'll take him again.
Josh Johnson. The Ravens tried him out. And then he decided he didn't want to play with us.
Oh my gosh. All right, we should move on.
All right, so my tight end
did you give your steal
here? I'm sorry. I already talked about my
Totally
reach. Jared Cook and his horrendous. I was just like re-looking at his stats again. I mean, I don't know why. Why would anybody?
Because it's New Orleans and Drew Brees, man. It's the same thing.
What?
It happens every
I don't
year.
care. He's gonna throw the ball to Michael Thomas.
But he's gonna be the next
Traquan
Jimmy
Smith.
Graham. What are you talking about?
And Kamara and Latavius Murray.
Yeah, he made Ben Watson
Kirkwood
good for a season, right?
Kirkwood's
going to
have a better year than
Kirkwood
freaking Jared Cook.
No, probably will not. But okay. Anyway.
Yes. Write it
You
down.
gotta rein him in.
No.
Write it down.
You went a little too far there.
This is when the beer kicks in.
Beer hasn't kicked in anywhere near enough yet.
Okay.
He's had 50 or more receptions, taking last year out of it for 3 years.
Good, I don't disagree with you. Move on. Go.
Whatever. Jared Cook sucks. Can go eat an ass. My steal here is gonna be Mr. Tight End 13 coming in at round 12, pick 4, and that's hanging with Austin Hooper down in the ATL here. I mean, the guy's getting a ton of hype this year, and rightfully so. I mean, I think this whole receiving core in general is just going to be super good this year. I mean, not that they aren't every year, but Julio already wants to put up, what did he say, 5,000 yards? I don't know, 15,000 yards in one season, something ridiculous. That's fine. He can do that. But Hooper will be there for all the short, under routes and all of that good stuff. And I mean, he's kind of been more of the red zone threat than Julio has. So I just like his upside. What did we say? 13 of their 16 fantasy relevant games are in a dome. You don't have to worry about the weather. So I just like Hooper this year.
Yeah, that's a pretty ridiculous stat that it keeps Matt Ryan at the top of my quarterback rankings more so than I really want it to be because he plays phenomenal in domes and that's crazy. So mine's going to be Kevin, your boy, man. I had to use it if you weren't going to. I asked you. I was going to give him to you because I know you love him. And it's Mark Andrews, man. I'm taking him. You sold me on him big time. I was not even looking at him. Scott Fishbowl. I was like, really? Like, I don't know why. Like, it's just at the end of the year. Like, the fact that he started playing really well with Lamar Jackson didn't really register to me. And I'm glad he pointed him out to me. Like, I've started looking up a lot of things. Like, the style of play that the Ravens have with Lamar feed right into him kind of checking it down to his tight end a lot because, and it's not even checking it down, like Mark Andrews can kind of stretch the field too, but it's just kind of who his eyes go to first when he starts scrambling out. And if he wants to throw, which isn't a lot, then it seems like he finds Mark Andrews more than often. And like, I just keep hearing glowing after glowing report of Mark Andrews in training camp. And so you're right, he is moving up the board, but he is still a steal in my opinion. I would take him over quite a few of these guys that are going later at this point. I'm taking him. Hawkinson is still going higher. Sorry, AJ, I'm taking him over Hooper. I'm taking him over Delaney Walker. I'm taking him over Burton. I might stop there. Cook, I might take him over Cook. I have Cook a little. So
yes,
he's definitely a top.
Yes,
to me, he's a top 10-ish tight end. It's risky though, but like at that point, like really, like Burton sucks in that offense. Walker's old. Like I don't know if we can trust him. Hooper, I do like Hooper. It just they're kind of right there with me, like at like the 10-11 range. Hawkinson, I want nothing to do with. Is a rookie. Njoku's where I end. Like I like Njoku. That offense is gonna be electric this year. The only thing you got to worry about with Njoku is there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. So getting rid of Duke Johnson for at least 8 weeks before Hunt comes back is gonna help Njoku, but how much? That's the only worry with him. But there's just a lot of like, if I'm gonna take a risk at a junk guy there, I might as well wait another couple rounds and just get Mark Andrews instead. I feel like it's going to be the exact same. So
yeah, you know that GIF of Jack Nicholson from Anger Management where he's just like nodding,
got the smirk and the nod. Yes,
the devilish look. Yeah, that's me right now. I feel. I mean, Mark Andrews is. Yeah, I mean, he's like if you watched Ravens games, like he was like our best playmaker once he had the ball in his hands. He was big. He was fast. He's going to be on the field because he can actually kind of block a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, reports out of camp are just like he's been the guy on the Ravens offense.
Yeah, I was reading I was looking at the Pro Football Focus scores again. I just closed it for some dumb reason. I think he was number 9 last year or something like that out of all tight ends. So that's pretty damn good. This guy's going to be
all the advanced stuff loves him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's really good. So all right, man. Well, that's it for the show. Kevin, before we let you go, why don't you remind everybody where they can find you on Twitter and all that good stuff?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Kevin M. Huo. That's Huo. That's about it. And you can catch my stuff on fantasy6pack.net. I got nothing else to plug.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Right. Cool, yeah, man.
Always good time.
And we will
we'll
do it again sometime this season.
And congrats on your Twitter win for the best Fantasy Six Pack Scott Fishbowl team.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Since no one else decided to plug that, I mean, we had the team listed with your name on your slide there. So
yeah, that's a lot of pressure on my shoulders now.
It's pretty.
You're welcome.
Although you had Kiki Kuti, so maybe not anymore.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking.
Too.
Since then,
I did too.
Yeah, so I've already lost Kiki, so we'll see how it goes. Should be okay. I've got Mark Andrews, so I should just win.
I do too. So yeah, we laughed.
I've got Kyler.
We laughed because,
already
or at
doing
least
so.
I did, because this, we did the collective staff rankings, right? And so it was like an average of all the staff, the Fantasy Six Pack staff together, and I came up with it's the lowest ranking, so the best score. And I was just like, was everybody just being nice to me? because I got dead last in the Twitter poll. But
I don't know. Your team was. I think. The voters like went for extremes. Like your team is just really balanced. I mean, that's why I voted you.
It is.
That's what I was looking at. Like, trust me, I wanted to rank you lower, and I was like, I just can't. I can't do it.
I'll be fair though, Kevin. I gave you the one out of because what we did is we said like if you were voting, you couldn't vote for yourself, so you had to put yourself like NA or whatever, right? And then I averaged it out that way. So I gave you the first vote. So I gave you the number one for me. So I
think I either
agree.
put you first or second. I was surprised by the results, so I'll put it that way. I was surprised.
No, you got a solid team.
Might have.
Well, I wasn't surprised I got first. I was surprised you got last by someone.
Yeah, it's okay.
I think I had you 1, 2, or 3. So you were up there for me as well.
I think
I had you 3, Joe.
A lot of people that voted. I think what happens a lot is, people don't realize how you need depth in Scott Fish Bowl to win this league.
Mm-hmm.
Like top heavy matters a lot too, but if you don't have depth, because there's no waiver wire, like it doesn't exist. There's going to be like 4 guys that matter that you pick up during the season, in the entire league, unless your league is asleep, which does happen. So having depth guys that have super high upside matter a lot, and that I think that isn't always known by, and the format of the league isn't always known by people on Twitter. But yeah, I'm not trying to make excuses. It's fine. You have a good team. I totally agree with it being number one. I would have done it. I would have voted you over me anyway. So it's fine. I have no issues with it. Yeah. So, all right, man. That's it. So we will catch you later on this season, man. Have a good night.
Cool. Yep. Thanks for having me on. Take it easy, guys.
All right, man. See you.
All right, AJ, anything else to add? We're done with our position previews. So next week, what are we doing next week, man? I haven't even looked forward.
That's a good damn question.
I think we might have Mr. Bob Long. We got consistency talk. We got Bob Long on next week. Yeah, that's a good one, man. That's a good conversation. You guys need to chime in. Tune in for that one for sure.
Reading the consistency guide before next week, then.
Yeah,
I'm halfway through it, so that's a fantastic read, of course, as is always every year.
Yep, something I preach, and I was once I found out he was doing that, I definitely wanted to bring him on every year to talk about it, because it's something that I live by in baseball, basketball, football, every fantasy sport I play. It's what I live by. So. Upside matters, but sometimes you can get burned by upside big time. So, all right, man. That's all I've got. We will catch you all next week. See ya.
Peace.